It's the event of the generation, the century, the millennium, all three moons' arms linked in a tug of war to drag the tides low, low, lower. Low enough that the glistening cobbles of Tarry-by-the-Sea's submerged original streets lay naked and exposed tonight for the first time in living memory. Tonight, the city is alive with revelers accustomed to navigating their city by hovercraft and bridge and gondola and tether ferry. They walk the streets littered with debris and rubble, stepping around abandoned watercraft improperly moored, slipping on cobblestones silicone slick with muck and seaweed. It's filthy. Yet here are the gentlefolk out in their nice shoes, ignoring the mud splashing onto the silk and synthetic leather, delighting in the novelty. 3 stories above, where the highest tides normally lap twice a day, and the above-water portion of the city begins, windows are glazed with kaleidoscopic glass and rimmed with glaring neon and flickering screens. Down here, it's all been broken out through the centuries since the tide shifted and the original city was washed through to ruin. Sizzling streetlights fight valiantly to illuminate farther down than usual. And the city's ubiquitous cameras, too, struggle to pierce the gloom. To fill the gap in security, drones drift overhead, quietly humming, made innocuous and cheerful with chains of bright paper lanterns strung between them, the light reflecting off the puddles and glossy wet cobbles in a shattered neon rainbow. Bands thrum beats into the newly uncovered plazas. The ferrymen, their gondolas dry docked tonight, their hovercraft unneeded, offer to guide revelers on tours of the lower levels. Giant sentry spiders, normally confined to rooftops and bridge decks, stalk the streets on spindly robotic legs. Someone's tied a bright nylon scarf around the leg of this one. The single unblinking eye in its belly whirs as it scans the crowd, shutter clicking at a suspicious face. It continues on. The residents of the city's lower half have taken cover as the residents of the upper half descend, but not all can hide. Barnacles, mussels, limpets encrust the stone walls, unable to run as enterprising foragers pry them off to be served on the night's special menus. Anemone clamped tight and sandy and sullen against the prodding fingers of toddlers, waiting desperately to unfurl when the tide comes in again. Crabs peer out from under crumbling walls. Minnows flounder in the dwindling tide pools splashed about by revelers. They're not the only ones left vulnerable tonight. But peer inside the shadows, beyond the upper crust's gaiety and the tidal residents' misery, and you'll find an entirely different sort of game finishing up as the tide rises once more. A 3-hour span of hallucinatory frenzy that was touted as the game of the generation, the century, the millennium. It's over. And now, victorious, Adria stands over Pandora's smoking body with an empty gun in her hand and nowhere left to run. Wait, I went too fast. Let's give that another go. Same story, about the trio of moons and the historic tide. Same poetical waxing about the citizens of the city coming down to gawk at the denizens of the deep. But I'll put 3 hours back on the clock. Same crowds, same frantic festival energy with bands sound-washing the plazas, the enterprising ferrymen and fastidious sentry spiders working the crowds. Someone's tied a bright nylon scarf around the leg of this one, and Adria ducks underneath it to avoid a clutch of giggling society toffs, glancing up at the single unblinking eye in its belly. It whirs as it focuses on her face, then clicks and keeps moving, ignored by the rest of the crowd. She's on her way to the game of her generation, the century, the millennium, driven by curiosity and obligation and the wooden box in her pack.